Hey everybody, this is week 5 of Thursday Night Live, our final week until the fall. I'm so glad for everyone who's joined us over these last number of weeks, for your comments, your encouragement, and your engagement, most of all, with what we've been doing. This has been super fun. I hope you've found some joy, some hope, and some encouragement for coping with COVID. It has been a time like no other. Tonight, we're wrapping up with a chat about money. As a part-time financial coach, I have a huge interest in helping people resolve their money stresses and get on a plan that puts them in charge of their money instead of their money being in charge of them. People often say there are a lot of things more important than money. And they're right, sort of, because money touches everything that is important in our lives. Our marriage, our friendships, our mental health and well-being, our outlook, our spiritual lives, our stress levels, our work, our kids, our futures, our plans, and our education, our opportunities. 41% of Canadians say that money is their greatest source of stress. Have you experienced money stress in your lifetime? That's a stupid question. Of course, all of us have at some point. What about in the last 3 months? For some people, this has magnified the stresses that have already been going on. For some people, this has created brand new stresses. And when you're money strapped, money stressed, and money scared, that's when you often do stupid things. Years ago, I took a phone call from a company that claimed to help their clients pay off debt. We'd been treading water at best for years at that point, trying not to drown in credit card payments, credit lines, and student loan payments. When they told me that their services would only cost $6.98, I eagerly, or happily at least, gave them my credit card information and paid for the materials they were going to send me and the service they would provide. Weeks later, a little spiral-bound notebook arrived in the mail about that thick, maybe 10 or 15 pages. Several pages to read about tips and tricks for getting out of debt. Shortly thereafter, my credit card statement also arrived with the charge $6.98 on my card. $698 US dollars, did I mention? $698 US dollars. About $1,000 of stupid I committed that day. And all I had to show for it was a few sheets of paper. I was so mad. It was probably the stupidest mistake I had ever made to that point with money. I threw that little booklet out, and so now I don't even have the little souvenir around to remember it by. But here's the thing. I was money strapped, I was money stressed, and I was money scared. So I was susceptible to anything that came along that sounded like hope. In the end, it's become a $1,000 lesson that I will never forget. There have been a few hard knocks along the way, and it was just one of them. But thankfully, we learned there's a better way. Tonight's guests, Dale Dick and Mike Crofts, are friends of mine. Dale's a financial advisor, Mike's a financial coach, and they're joining me for a chat about healthy money habits, something that is really not at all complicated, but is still not easy for most of us. So here we go. Dale and Mike, it is great to have you today on this interview. What a great chance through technology. My goodness. A month ago, we weren't even planning to do this. So thanks for just jumping in and being part of this talk tonight on financial peace in uncertain times. I think there's no disputing these are uncertain times, strange days. To get us started, would you guys just introduce yourselves and let us know a little bit about who you are and what you do so our viewers can get to know you a little bit more.
Go for it, Dale.
Okay, I'll do it. I'm the oldest. I'll do this.
Age before beauty, my friend. No, just playing.
We'll go with that. So my name is Dale Dick. I live in Calgary. I have been a financial planner for 25 years. Previous to that, I was a pastor for 13 years. I'll tell a little bit more about that part of the story a little bit later. But my my big jam is to sit down with people and help them walk through the stuff in their life to help them have a future that they can have a piece of and a part of, and they can plan and be intentional about it. And it so happens to line up with money, and that seems to be a big part of people's lives. I am married, 2 sons, 2 daughters-in-law, and 5 grandchildren. Best thing ever happened to our family.
That's what I hear. Awesome.
I love it. I love it. My name is Mike, guys. I'm a personal finance coach, and I try and, my job is as I figured this out over the years is, we help people get out of debt, anxiety, the overwhelm that often comes with financials and financial stress here, and get them into a position where they can become wealthy by handing them off to jail after they're debt free, got the emergency fund here, and they've changed a lot of limiting beliefs and changed a lot of their habits and behaviors around their finances. That's kind of where I come into the picture, and I've had a lot of success and a lot of fun doing it as well. I'm married and I've got 3 girls, so pray for me. Everyone out there, pray for me. Yeah, 3 girls, 6, 5, and 2. And so
You live in the girls' dorm.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I've got a man cave in my house reserved just for me, where the girls take it over every day. This morning I woke up and their play horses were in there. So yeah, that's my life. But it's awesome. I love it. And super excited to be on here and share. And, like you said, technology, I mean, even 5 years ago, the idea of doing something like this, we're in different parts of the country, different time zones, and coming together like this is just huge. And so, I'm blessed that, COVID has caused this to happen, not cause everything else to happen. But super excited to share and super excited about where we're going as a society, as a church community, and as a country.
Cool. Let's just launch right in. First of all, why is it so hard for people to talk about money?
Excellent question. Why is it so hard? It is exceptionally personal. We hate divulging the personal things in our life, particularly the personal things which are not going like we hoped they would go. We don't sit around in the coffee shop and go, boy, my life really sucks right now. How about yours? It just doesn't happen that way. So talking about money is difficult. Our parents probably came from a generation where they didn't talk to us about money because it was very private to them. Therefore, we grew up with the attitude, you don't talk about those kind of things, particularly with your own children. So it's difficult to have a really good and informed conversation unless you go outside of your family. And it's difficult.
Yeah.
I would agree. I think there's shame as well. I think the difference is when you say, why don't we talk about money? I think what I've seen is a lot of times people who are successful tend to maybe not talk about it, but they can tend to show it, and depending on how you're built, for some that's generosity. For others, that's just showing off, with the latest and greatest thing. And not judging anyone either way, but I think when you're successful, you tend to show it off in terms of how you're built. When you're unsuccessful or when you feel like you're failing with finances, it can feel like you're alone because you don't share it, you don't want to talk about it. And let's be honest, as humans, we're not conditioned to talk about the failures, but to celebrate the successes. And so I think what happens, and when you look at the stats, Canadians are struggling. And I just think a lot of times when there's shame around any topic, money or whatever else is, there's so many things out there. We tend not to talk about it. We tend to want to ignore it.
It doesn't help that in social media, we show the highlight reel of our lives. We don't talk about the things that didn't go right. We talk about the vacations, the thing we just bought, the meal we just had. Yeah, we don't talk about the things that we struggle with. That's difficult.
Right.
Difficult.
Haven't you guys found, though, you probably in sitting down with people across a table or getting up to speak to a group, I'm sure you've found that the more you share your struggle that you've had with money, the more people go, oh, he messed up too. And I could probably talk to that guy.
This is the irony, and particularly in Christian life, we want to again, we want to highlight where God's done really good things for us. We want to highlight where, there's great things that have happened in our life, and we're the picture of how God worked, as opposed to talking about the arc of the story, which is, where was I when God stepped in, which was in the very difficult, very hard spot. And that's the irony, is to share those hard spots, because that's the piece that is giving people a little bit more vulnerability, and like you just said, Neil, the ability to say, hey, I could probably talk to this person. They've walked through the same kind of waters I've been walking through right now.
Mm-hmm. Maybe I'll throw this out. Why, if it's so hard to talk about, why is it maybe even more important to talk about it during COVID-19 and isolation and layoffs and income instability and all of that?
I mean, I would say, just from our perspective here, what you don't shine a light on doesn't get fixed. What you don't tend to talk about, doesn't get fixed. Also, statistically speaking, where you're at, there's a good chance your neighbor's there too. You just don't know it because you haven't talked about it. But statistically speaking, there's quite a bit of Canadians struggling. And so what I have found is talking about it does a couple of things. One, it now empowers you to know that you're not alone. You've got help. You've got people with you. You've got a community with you. Two, it starts to shine a light on it. And so now the conversation goes from not trying to hide it, but how can I fix it? What can I do today to take action so that tomorrow isn't just another Groundhog Day repeat, another day like today, but there's actually hope, and there's actually, a future for what I want to do and where I want to go. And so, I mean, that's a huge, that's one of the best things you can do. I mean, when you look at mental health and we look at all these other areas, just talking about it a lot of times is the reason why people start to heal. And so, whether that's just with a close friend, someone you trust, maybe a family member or something like that, but being able to talk about it and just let it out, get it out of you. That's where we start to see a lot of change happen for a lot of people.
Those are good words, Mike. And I do feel that, we have up until now, if we have had any kind of struggle that we've been able to hide, whether it's through some other means, through a credit or through a line of credit, or just in some other way to hide kind of the rough spots in our life, now this whole crisis has kind of opened it up. And as I've heard one person say, low tide exposes all the skinny dippers. And now when we're in low tide, people are realizing, oh, we haven't all got it together, and it hasn't been that good. And now that increases what you talked about, Mike, the shame factor, where we go, oh dear, people didn't know this about me. Now they're seeing it. That just highlights that thing. We don't want to talk about it. But the irony is, when we do talk to somebody that's kind of walking through this, we realize we are not alone. This whole isolation thing has highlighted and kind of increased this whole feeling that we are alone. But when you start to talk, you talk with like-minded people and like-minded troubles, you realize, hey, we are not alone. And so I think this really heightens our need we need to be conversing with other people about this, particularly people who reach out to us, and we just, instead of turning them away, say, yeah, we need to chat. And it's a very good time to do that.
What should people look for then in a good financial coach or financial advisor?
Ooh, I think, my criteria, what I look for is someone that has the heart of a teacher, that can sit there and, and teach and not sell. Someone who understands where you are. So maybe they've been there themselves. They've been through the struggle. They understand what it's like to be where you are, and they know how to get you moving forward. For me, that's a big one. You know where I am, and either you're where I want to be, or you know how to get me on that path to moving forward to where I want to be.
It's a really good thing. Expose something about yourself that really is a downfall, and you know really clearly it was something you made a poor judgment in. and listen for their answer. So if they answer, boy, you should never have done that. Boy, that's if you get the naughty, naughty you, that's not the person you want to be extending a relationship with. But if they extend, oh, boy, that must be really difficult. How did that feel? How did that kind of make your family feel? So when they start asking you questions about your own interaction with those problems, then you know you've got someone that's listening to you. And that's really probably the big thing. You're looking for someone that will listen to you and try to understand what you're doing. So I think if you can just expose a little crack, maybe not the big cracks, a little crack, and see how they respond. That'll give you a good indication. Are these the kind of people that are going to walk through this with me, or are they going to preach at me? And preaching at you, obviously, you don't need that. You don't want it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good.
Interesting. Yeah. So what made you guys get into this field as coaches and advisors?
That's a funny question. I could go for a long time, but I know we got a short time. I told you I was a pastor for 13 years. I actually got laid off by a church, which was kind of weird, but and I kind of went, now what? And I kind of stumbled into this through my own financial advisor. And he says, have you ever tried doing this? And I had no idea. But I said, you know what? I think I'll give this a shot, because one of the things I really loved doing when I was a pastor was sitting down with couples doing premarital counseling. So we're just getting ready to get married. And now we start talking about, okay, we're getting past June the 10th. Now, what does your life look like as a couple 2 years from now? What does it look like 5 years from now? Who are you going to spend Christmas with this year? Who are you going to spend Christmas with next year? So talking about the future was always something I loved doing with people, and just getting them to picture their future. And then when I learned that this is what you can do when you talk to people about finances, is talk about how you view your future. Talk about how you view, as Mike mentioned, how you view your generosity. How does that happen? These kind of things are all questions that intrigue me when I realized, hey, I could do this actually for a living. It was kind of a no-brainer. I love doing this. So 25 years later, I'm still doing this.
That's awesome. For me, it was about 10 years ago. We were in a hole financially, and man, I mean, the conventional wisdom at the time just wasn't helping us. It was steering us, further down the path of going further into debt, and there was no real solutions. And so, really working through the process here of becoming, becoming debt free and getting on a budget and saving and all that stuff. We crawled out of the hole. And then in return, we thought, hey, how can we start helping other people? And at that time, I was, friends and family. It was showing them how to manage their money, showing them, giving them hope that, hey, you can be successful with money. It doesn't always have to be like this. And shortly after doing that, it evolved into a business where people started calling and asking, if we can help coach them and mentor them. And so it evolved into that over the course of a couple of years. And now we've been in it for 5 or 6 years now, helping Canadians and Americans as well. And so that's kind of how we got. So just through my journey, being overwhelmed, having anxiety, being stressed out, knowing what it's like to be in there and all that, and crawling out of it, getting out on the other side and saying, wow, it's so cool over here. We gotta get more people on this side of things where there isn't stress. I had a client, I had a friend that we did an interview with them today, and she's paid off. I mean, she's killing it. She's just paid off $107,000 in the last 13 months.
Wow.
107? Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I mean, her situation is a little unique, a little different than most. But she did about 100. But she was, and she still got some debt, so she was in the hole quite big. Anyways, so we're talking with her today, and she was just saying the stress gone, the anxiety's gone. Yeah, there's a little bit of debt, but now there's a plan, and there's hope and all this stuff. And so, to hear that's why we do it, to hear those stories and watch people make those watch that transformation happen.
Yeah.
The best gig in the world.
Cool. What's the common misconceptions that you guys see about the subject of money?
Okay.
What do you got, Dale? I'm sure you see a lot.
We could probably think of 100 different ones.
I could go all kinds of directions, but let's go this way. particularly if we're walking in the path that we call ourselves God followers, call ourselves Jesus followers. Common misconception is it's our money, and we made it. We can delve it out wherever we want to put it. The reality is, it ain't ours. The skill we use to build our wealth, that wasn't ours. That was given to us by somebody. The talents that we acquire in our working life that allows us to earn a living, that didn't come from us. That was built into us by the one who loves us and wanted to create us. So I think that's the biggest myth. But that's a spiritual answer. I'm gonna leave it at that. Mike, you jump into where you want to go.
Yeah, there's so many, and I'll say the biggest one is that the belief that you have to stay in debt longer than you do. Not a week goes by where I hop on the phone and with someone who's inquiring, and the question asked is, "How long do you think you're going to be in debt for?" And it's like, well, this guy told me 5 years, and the consolidation company told me it'd be at least 7 years, and blah 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 blah. Whatever it is, I'm like, it doesn't have to be that way. For the majority of people, 24 months or less is all it takes.
Yeah.
And that's regardless of income. Because what I figured out, and this is another big misconception, is we all think it's mathematics.
Right.
That it's like, if I just I can earn my way out of this. And if that was true, then you wouldn't have 6-figure income earners in debt.
No.
Right?
You're absolutely right.
Yeah, and so for a lot of people, we find the limiting beliefs that they've held on to, the habits, behaviors. If we can change that, the finances will just follow. It's not about trying to push the finances. It's like, let's change it here. Let's change here. Everything else will follow. And so that's a big one for me. I find a lot of people stay in debt way longer than they need to. And they believe that, just whether it's cultural or whether it's just sold that way, that debt's a way to, that's just normal. And that's what it is for a lot of people, that it's just a way of life.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be like that.
Right.
Another one? Can I hit another one?
Well, I was going to piggyback on Mike's and say that, a misconception is I can have everything I want right away.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And it's probably not a complete falsehood in a lot of ways. In the long run, we probably can get a lot of the things that we want or need, especially. But it takes years. Running out. Did we lose Mike? There he is.
I'm here.
Running out today and financing a boat and a car and a new TV and a couch. We end up with the possessions, but they carry a lot of chains of payments for years with them. Yeah. Whereas over 20 years, somebody might be able to get those things if that's what they would like to have in their life.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, one of the things I see a lot, particularly working with younger couples, they leave a lifestyle and living at home where their parents had everything that they kind of hoped for and dreamed for, and they expect to have that now. And the reality is, it took their parents 25 years to get there. And there's a belief that, we can just get it all and have it all now. It's been a little bit facilitated by the credit industry, allowing you to buy things on the hope that you'll pay it back, which is credit. But I just tend to see people not getting a real grasp on it. Does, just as you mentioned, Neil, it does take time to get to those places. You can do that, particularly if you're intentional, particularly if you have a plan, particularly if you do it in an organized and kind of thought through way. But yeah, I see that a lot.
Yeah. Did you have one, Mike, or we keep on rocking?
Let's keep rocking. I mean, I've got too many to talk about.
There's so many. Maybe it leads naturally to this then. So if those are misconceptions, what are the common money principles, the bare bones basics that people need to live by to get rid of the stress that Mike's talked so much about and to experience peace even when times are bad or shaky like they are right now? What are the common principles?
I'll say they're very simple, not always easy, but they're simple. All right, here's, I'll give a few, and Dale, I know you've got a few, so let me start off here. Number one, you got to have some savings put aside. We call it $1,000, call it $1,500, whatever, whatever it is. You got to get a little bit of reserves put aside, so that when life happens, because it's going to happen, we know that the car is going to break eventually. I've never met a car that's made me money yet. If you find one, let me know, because I will invest into that.
Ain't that
Maybe on Uber.
Maybe Uber, but even Ubers need to be repaired.
Yeah.
We know the car repair is going to happen. We know that at some point the furnace is going to need to be, fixed, that type of stuff. And so to have a little small reserve put aside is huge, and that will give you a little bit of peace of mind there. Second thing is, a game plan, a strategy. Proverbs 21:5. A good plan and hard work lead to what? Plenty. Hasty shortcuts lead to poverty. And when it comes to your finances, a good plan is called, a budget, a cash flow plan. Managing what comes in, managing what goes out. And when you do it properly, the most people, what we find is about a month into doing it well, they start to have peace because they know what's going on.
Yes.
And next thing is a plan for the debt. You've really got, we're talking consumer debt here, credit cards, car loans, student loans, lines of credit, that type of stuff. A real plan to have that paid off and paid off soon. Because Dale, I know we're going to hop to you in a sec here. I mean, when you're paying 19% interest, and what a lot of Canadians do, they do this over the course of their lifetime. That's potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars that you could have used to grow your nest egg and your retirement. And so, those are some principles off the beginning here. Dale, why don't you kick us off with some of the principles on your end?
You know what? Wise man once said, he lived about 4,000 years ago. We know him by the name of Solomon. He wrote, the wise have wealth and luxury, but fools spend everything they have.
Woo!
That's basically the principle. You know what? If you don't spend everything you make, you'll actually have something at the end of the day. The statistics are in North America, 78% of people live paycheck to paycheck. In other words, they spend absolutely everything they earn. And this is not just reserved for the categories of the rich or the not so rich. My wife used to work for a consulting company. And in 2014, 2015, when the oil price started to drop drastically in Alberta, this is when a lot of people started becoming unemployed. The company that my wife worked for, their consultants were dropped pretty quickly, because when you're going to cut costs in a company, who do you cut first? You cut the consultants, because there's no obligations to them. And if you need to cut costs, that's where you start cutting them. So then all these consultants are coming back to the office where my wife is working, and as they're waiting to see the person they need to see, they're sitting there talking to my wife, and they're saying, boy, I sure hope they have something for me. I got my place down in Phoenix, got my kids in this private school, we got course lessons, and they're living with making money, and I'm talking about $40,000 to $50,000 a month income, paycheck to paycheck. So it's not reserved for just the poor people. When people don't live a lifestyle where they save, they get into trouble when we get into these kind of times, when we're in tough times, but they have no margins. If you read the book, The Millionaire Next Door, or Chris Hogan's book, Everyday Millionaire, you discover that people who actually succeeded with money and became millionaires did it by saving. The fellow that wrote not Andy Stanley, that's another guy, Thomas Stanley, he wrote The Millionaire Next Door. He wrote a subsequent book to that. He said the average millionaire saved 20% of their income. So in other words, they didn't spend everything they got. They put it away. They put a big chunk away. And this is what allowed them to weather storms like we're living in, but it also allowed them to have things that other people couldn't have, and they don't have to worry about it, and they get peace. So this is the one thing that I see a lot of, where people, they earn and they earn more. And I hate to say this, but in Alberta, I think it's worse than anywhere else in the country, where there's been lots of high incomes and people live like it, and they don't save. So, just think of it this way. If 78% is the right number, look at 10 houses on your street. 8 of those houses, the people in those houses are living paycheck to paycheck and have no margin. And now they're starting to feel it. If you had any kind of margin, if you had any kind of savings, and as Mike said, if you've got some sort of emergency fund set up, you have at least a cushion to land on. And that's the thing that gives you a little bit more peace than the people who've been living and spending everything they got. So that's my 2 cents worth in that one.
Yeah. I think, Mike, you hinted around this a little bit too, is just, maybe it was early in the conversation, an intentional plan. When money comes in and hits the bank account, where is it going, instead of just immediately going to the drive-through, hopping online, shopping, making the car payment or whatever payments are being made. Sitting down, talking it through, putting it on paper, saying, what do I have? Making a plan for saving, as you've both alluded to. Are there any other simple or basic principles that you would hit on that people just really need to begin to practice in their life to find financial peace and success?
We talked about living on less than you make. We talked about having a plan for what you actually spend. We talked about working a plan for getting out of debt. We talked about having an emergency fund, just some cash put aside. I mean, if you do those 4 things, you'll be successsul. And I'm willing to bet you'll be wildly successful.
Yep.
And save. You'll be wildly successful. It may take some time. This doesn't happen overnight. Just like you plant, a bamboo tree. What does it take? 5 years before the thing even pops out of the ground? But after that, it just blows up, right? And it's the same idea with your finances. It takes a bit of time to get it going, but if you'll have discipline, if you'll be focused, if you'll be intentional around what you're doing there, I mean, you will be successful just following those simple principles.
But Mike, Dale, I've never been good with money. My parents were good with money. I hear the debate that goes on. I'm not good with it. I've tried budgeting. It didn't work for me. Or you're talking about millionaires, Dale. I make, $25,000 a year. That doesn't apply to me, what you're talking about. How do you answer stuff like that?
For me, it's easy. It's no one's born a financial manager. No one's born, with the ability to all of a sudden just know finances. It's all learned. And so if you don't like where you're at today, if finances is hard for you today, then here's the good news. You can learn it. And like I said, it's simple principles. It's not rocket science. It's not, you don't got to go get a degree in finance. It's simple principles. And so go out and learn it. Go out, if you're struggling in an area, go out and flex the muscle, take what it takes, go and do what it takes to learn. But the great thing about finances is it's not hard. What we're talking about here, it is simple. And so wherever you're at, even if you're low income, there's no reason why you can't go and you can't go and do more income. Earl Nightingale said it this way. He's long gone, but one of my favorite quotes was, your income is in direct proportion to the amount of people you're serving. And so, that's a biblical principle, serving people. And so I would say, if you don't like your income, find a way to serve more people.
Cool.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I do hear that a lot too. I get pushback on the thing. Well, oh my goodness, I don't have the income to make myself a millionaire. If you read that book by Chris Hogan, Everyday Millionaire, well, they dug down into that and found out the biggest category of people who became millionaires were wage earners who made between $50,000 and $70,000 a year. So that tells me that you don't have to be making 6-figure incomes to get there. It just takes the intentionality and the thought that I'm just going to be intentional with what I have. And really the whole point of what Jesus talks about when he talks about money is being a good steward. He says, be intentional with what you get, not with what you hope to get or what you think you might get from an inheritance. Or he talks about being a steward of what you were given. And that's kind of where we're coming from. And the whole point of, telling people I'm not good with my money, to be honest, and this is, a bit of a broad sweep, but the people that say that really don't have that, they really don't have a vacuum in the skill area of being able to be good with their money. It's just that they have given up and said, I have failed in the past, but I can't fix it. There's something in my DNA that doesn't allow me to do this right. That's completely false. You talk to Mike about the people that he's seeing getting them out of debt. It's because people decided to put a plan in action, and every dollar had a place to go to, and every dollar was intentionally going in a certain direction. It's not because they had a greater income. Maybe some did work harder. What generally happens when people do get on plans and when they do get on kind of this pointed direction of where to go, all of a sudden they go, what if I did a little bit more? What if I tried a little bit of this? When my wife and I kind of got this thing in our minds that we could actually pay off our mortgage early, all of a sudden we started doing things that we weren't doing before. All of a sudden we started cutting in areas we didn't think we could cut before. It's not because we were greatly skilled. It's because all of a sudden we realized, hey, we could do this. If we just get on point, and if we just kind of decide this is what's really important to us, it can get done. So I kind of push that one aside and just say, if all you did was just pay attention, not get better with your money, not get more skills or acquire more ways of budgeting or whatever the case may be, if you just paid attention, you'd be surprised how things would change in your financial life. And it's not a big deal. I don't think it is. It's just it's a mindset more than anything else.
Yeah, I listened to you talk. I recall working with two different situations, but one 6-figure income and couldn't live within that means, could not make the weekly or monthly budget work. And another one who made $1,400 a month and was living within her means. So as you said, it's not so much how big the number is that you're bringing home. It's how you manage it, how intentional you are, to use that word again.
Can I go one more on that one?
Yeah.
If we're all if we're walking in any kind of spiritual circles, if we know Jesus and we're following him, we all know the verse, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. If you read the context of that particular phrase, that particular line, Paul's writing to the church in Philippi, and he's telling him a story, and he says, I know what it's like to be rich and have everything I need. I know what it's like to have absolutely nothing and not knowing where my next meal is going to come from. And this is the secret. And when you kind of hear that and go, oh, what's the secret there? Because the secret is, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. It is contentment. That is the secret. And if we can be content with where we're at, whether it's extraordinarily large incomes or extraordinarily poor incomes, if we can be content and happy, that's the thing that's going to drive us. It really is. That's a big factor.
Yeah. My favorite is Mark 9. I believe it's verse 23, where Jesus says, if you just believe, all things are possible. If one will believe, all things are possible. If you will just believe, you will be debt free. If you'll just believe, you can change your life. If you just believe, you can work a plan and be a completely different person 5, 10, 15 years down the road than you are today. All things are possible.
Because if we truly believe something, we will live like we believe it, and we'll go after it.
We'll do it. This is a whole another area that we don't want to get into. But it activates something consciously, but it also activates something subconsciously. And there's a whole bunch of science around this, that when you really believe something, positive or negative, it doesn't matter which way, the subconscious doesn't know. It'll just, it will start to find ways to support that belief system. And so when you really do believe that you can become debt free and really start to live a life of abundance and generosity, like you start to work it. Not all your circumstances today don't show it. Maybe your pocketbook doesn't even show that it can happen. You will start to work that and make that happen over the course of 12, 24, 36 months. Your life will really start to transform. And so really, in my opinion, it all comes down to belief. Hope deferred makes the heart sick. And when you have belief, you have hope.
Yeah. Well, I know my wife and I are in our story, when we kind of hit the wall finally, financially speaking, and we're frustrated enough with living that way, the beliefs that started to change were not even necessarily just that we could get out of it, but that continuing to live borrowing for everything we did, going further in debt for everything we wanted to do or every item we wanted to buy or whatever it was, continuing to live that way was the belief that we had to shift. And that was the thing that changed. Borrowing our way through life was only going to make us slaves. You know, Proverbs 22:7, the rich rule over the poor, the borrower is the lender. I mean, that word picture from Proverbs just came to life. And we just saw ourselves standing here, 13 years of marriage, and deeply in love, 2 beautiful kids, deeply in debt, standing there with chains on, right? And so that began to shift, and you're absolutely right. We went after something way better. And we just began to see God provide, and our eyes opened up. God had been providing all along, and we couldn't see it. We were kind of caught up in all the things we wanted, and jumping out ahead of him and not giving him a chance to look after us. And MasterCard was our provider, right? It became a taskmaster, not a good provider. So we got to move on. Where does God enter this subject of money? Where's the intersect?
Well, this is rather huge, and he intersects money in a very big way. The fact that anything to do with finance has been mentioned 2,300 times in the scope of the Bible tells you that it's an important topic, and there's some important ramifications, and it's important to God. And when Jesus was standing in front of a group of people who were listening to him, he said, "You can't serve 2 masters. You either serve, you either listen to one and follow the one and leave the one behind, or whatever." But he said, you cannot serve God and mammon. He didn't say you can't serve God and the devil. Interesting that he would say that. Why would he say that? Because money has this way of sucking us into the vortex. And when God says the one thing that can be in opposition to me is money or things that have to do with money, he was so right. When things go wrong with our money, we look for, our default position is to go towards things that we can do to fix it. And our default ought to be, you know what, God is trying to intersect our life, all areas of life, including money. And we don't lean that way naturally. We lean the other way. There's something I can do by myself. And part of being a prosperous nation is a difficult thing, because all around us, all the culture tells us is there's a way out of this. You can fix this some way, whether it's a cheap Band-Aid through a credit card or a line of credit, or some other thing, self-help thing. God says, the one thing is, if you leaned on me, you would have far more peace, far more ability to be an influencer, and far more ability to have a really good and prosperous life, is if you leaned on me. It's interesting, we were kind of walking through this, and it kind of struck me that the biggest thing that's kind of going on right now is fear. The fear of this virus, the fear of, is my job going to come back? The fear, am I ever going to get out of the hole that I've been dug into financially right now? But if we listen to that voice, this is what's going to happen. This is where we're going to lean. This is what's going to be our future. Fear is a terrible taskmaster. And God says, lean on me, listen to me. I've got some wisdom for you. You read the book of Proverbs, and you can just find all kinds of nuggets. We referred to a couple already, where God just says, the thing that I want to intersect in your life is how you deal with money correctly. But It's the contentment. It's the following me. It's, being that. So if we listen to that voice and say, God's got something for us, we believe he can reach into our life and do something that nobody else could do, that's where we're going to see things happen. But if we listen to that voice of fear that says, boy, things are ugly, things are really bad, how many million cases are there around the world? How many people are dying from this? Am I ever going to get out of this hole? Is our economy ever going to recover? All those things are fearful questions. We listen to those voices, we're going to act on them. And we're going to be driving our life by them. But if we listen to the voice where God says, I want to give you a spirit of contentment. I want to give you a spirit of intentionality. I want to give you a spirit of discipline. I want to give this to you. If you do that, I think that's where God intersects our world of money and where he's at. Big, long answer, sorry.
Well, you're a pastor, right?
That kind of leaks out every once in a while.
They like their words.
I'll keep it short and simple. I would say this, I heard a while back someone said this, money's a lot like air. It's not until you don't have any that you realize how much you need it. And I would say, piggybacking off Dale there is that for the majority of people, the tendency is to lean on money, not God. Lean on my ability to earn an income, lean on what's coming into my household. And I would say that if you want to break the fear out of your life for good, activate generosity. No matter where you're at today, start giving. Start giving and watch God show up in your life. Watch God show up when you don't, if you're in a situation, we were in a situation years ago where it was like, I had a big contract, we lost it. That was like 50% of our income. And that month I was like, I don't know how we're going to make it. I do not know, but I do know that we were giving still. We were tithers, and we really believe that tithers are blessed. It's a principle. It's not a magic trick, but something we were activating for a long time, and we watched God show up during that time of need. Opportunity came. We never got a check in the mail that said, "Here's the check that's going to cover your bills." But opportunity started to show up. I was like, "Oh my gosh, more opportunity than we can handle," and it allowed us to come out of the hole during that time. And so I'd say, if you find you have a tendency to lean on money, if you find that I don't want to say it's your God, but it's your safety net, start to give some of it away. Activate generosity. We recommend 10%. That's where we started when we were in debt, when we were trying to crawl out of it, when we didn't have income. We were doing 10% of everything we brought in, and it changed our perspective, and it really helped us to trust in God because the times are slim. And it's like, I'm giving God this big check here that I could use for X, Y, and Z that I need to get fixed. And then God shows up. It changes your life.
Real quick, couple questions to wrap us up. If someone wants to make changes and they're listening and they're saying, boy, I don't know, like, I would like to believe what these guys are saying. It sounds like where I want to be. But I just don't know, hardly know where to start. Like, what's the first thing they should do tonight?
I think it's kind of easy. I think Mike is going to echo this very same one. Start by taking an inventory. If you walked through where you spent all of your money last month, the month before, and the month before that, so if you took 3 months and just went, where did I spend my money? And just look at it. This may be the most shameful and painful exercise you ever go through if you have never walked through and built a plan for yourself. But it's kind of like the before picture. You know how the diet centers like to put the before. This is the big fat person on the left and on the right. Look how skinny they got by doing this thing. This is the big fat before picture. When you look at how you spent your money over the last 3 months and you go, this is shameful. I can't believe I did this. But it's the starting point. It's the reality point that starts you thinking, I've got to do something different. And Mike's the guy to talk to when you talk about coaching and moving from that point forward. But that's, I think, is probably the best point to start with.
Yeah, that's great, Dale. And I'll piggyback and say this. Everything you want is on the other side of fear. And, and for some people, the fear is just sitting down and taking stock of what's happened or what's going to happen. And, I'll speak from my experience. I know you guys can say this in your lives too. And even when we work with couples one-on-one, they literally 30 days into it, because they've taken stock, that's the first thing we get them to do is start to take stock of what's going to happen and all that. I mean, there's not a week that goes by where I don't care. We have peace. We feel like stress is being relieved. That's all because now they're in control. They've accepted the situation for what it is. They see where their starting point is, but they know where they want to go. And they're now in control of their decisions and where they want to go. And so I'd echo on that. Take stock. Start a plan. See where you are today. Where do you want to go? Let's make a plan on how to get there.
Right. Isn't that so true that when money's out of control, money makes all the decisions for you?
Mm.
No, you can't go do that. You can't go do that. You don't have enough.
Yeah.
No, you're not going on that trip. No, you're not going out to eat with your friends tonight. No, you can't give to your church. You don't have enough.
Yeah.
When you're in control, you make the decisions and you tell your money what to do.
Yeah.
It's a complete shift, isn't it? There's been so much good that you've said tonight, but what is one thing you'd like to say to everyone listening right here, June the 4th, listening tonight? What's one thing you want to leave with them for these days?
Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. First thing, put your trust in God and just say, you know what, God, I haven't been trusting you till now. I want to start. Tonight's the night. I'm sorry for what I've done before, and I know you can help me. I want to trust and I want to lean on you. Just start there. All these other little exercises are good steps to take after that. I think the first step, we need to just acknowledge that, God, I want contentment. God, I want peace. God, I want all these things. But first of all, I need to say, again, I trust you. I'm going to lean on you.
I agree. I echo that. And, 100%, starts with God and that relationship. We can teach you everything you need to know, how to become rich, how to become wealthy. And if you don't have God in your life, it isn't going to matter. It's not, it's worthless at that point. And I would say this, to echo on that, is you can win. You can absolutely win. You just got to, you've got to expect to do it. You got to believe you can do it. And, like God says, believe and you can achieve. All things are possible. And it starts with that belief there. And so, that's what I would say. Go out and do it because you can make it happen. And God's here to walk with you 100%.
Awesome. If people want to learn more about money, how do I handle my money, or just even about you guys, to reach out to you for help maybe, how would they do that?
Mike, go first.
All right, I'll go first. So for me, Money Coach Mike is the business. If you Google Money Coach Mike, you'll pretty much find me. The website there is where you would start. On Facebook, Money Coach Mike, we've got some cool private community groups. I think both of you guys are in, where we're just serving people. And so feel free to hop into there. If you send me a message on Facebook or Instagram, we'll get you connected. But Money Coach Mike, Google that and you'll find me.
Cool.
Mine's pretty simple. I'm not really so sophisticated. I don't have a website. But if you looked up Dale Dick, you can see how it's spelled right on the bottom of my little Zoom thing there. Go look me up on Facebook. Send me a message through Messenger. I'd be happy to chat, happy to answer any questions and see if there's something I can do for you. Probably I'll point you to Mike first anyway. But
Tag team, right? Tag team. We get you out of debt, and then
we'll move on from
get
there.
you building
Exactly.
wealth and get
Good
you
idea.
wildly successful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Guys, this has been great. Thanks for taking time to talk to us tonight. We will add all the things you said about how to reach you in the comments, and they'll put the links out there on Facebook and YouTube where this is being broadcast. And thanks everybody for joining us tonight. It's been great.
Been great. Way to go, Neil.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thanks, Dale and Mike, for joining me tonight for this important conversation about money. It was really great. And this has been a great 5 weeks, sharing Thursday Night Live with you guys. Can I be honest with you for a sec? When I was thinking about starting this, I delayed and I delayed and I delayed, even though it was something I really wanted to do. You know why? Because I didn't know if I'd be good at it. I didn't know if people would take the time to watch. I didn't know if people would like it. Probably I didn't know if people would laugh at my bad dad jokes either, but that's obvious. You love them, don't you? Anyway, I learned something. It's been all right. It's been all right to learn something on the fly and just take it as it comes. And none of us are good at anything when we start. It takes time. I read a really interesting article this week about a mom who was observing her kid doing her piano lessons. And she watched her child play and she watched her make mistakes. She made a lot of them, a lot of mistakes. She wasn't very good at it at all. But she kept going. Nobody criticized her and nobody wondered why she wasn't good at it and berated her for not doing a good job. They encouraged her. Kids know, and parents know about their kids, that they have to be bad at something before they can be good at it. But when we grow up, I think we forget this. We expect that we just should have it together. We should be good, or we should just know stuff, and it holds us back. So don't let being afraid of being bad at something be the reason you never get good at it. Does that make sense? Don't let shame keep you from coming out in the open and saying, hey, I am no good at this money thing. I've made the biggest mistakes. Listen, you heard one of mine. I could give you a list. There's a list of mistakes. I would encourage you, don't hide in shame if you've made mistakes and if you're scared. Reach out to Dale or reach out to Mike or reach out to me too. As I said, I do this part-time. You can find me on Facebook or Instagram, Neil Horner Financial Coaching. But maybe you're saying tonight too, listen, I've made too many mistakes. It's too late. There's no help for me. You're wrong. You are absolutely wrong. And that's okay. I'm okay saying that to you tonight. I've made so many mistakes too, and now God gives me the privilege of helping others clean up theirs, like He helped me and others helped me. It's amazing what some learning and some time and God's grace can do for someone's life. So I'd encourage you just to tell God tonight, God, I've messed up. I've made some pretty big mistakes, and I need to start over. And I want to do this with you. Help me find a new way. We believe Jesus is the giver of fresh starts. He forgives your sin, and He wipes your slate clean. If you've made money messes, He's not mad at you. He loves you. Your Heavenly Father wants you to grow and walk through life with Him. If we can be any help to you, please email us at care@woodstockwesleyan.org. We'd love to talk to you. So, Thursday Night Live is not coming to an end, but it looks like we are going to press pause for the summer. We're going to gear up for all kinds of great conversations this fall, conversations with all kinds of different people. Police, pastors, doctors, financial people, counselors, and just some average Joes like you and me who are changing the world by helping people in their context. So I hope you'll join us again when we relaunch in the fall. Hey, and speaking of the future, I have one final dad joke / bad joke for you. Here it is. The past, the present, and the future all walked into a bar. It was tense. Thanks, guys. You're awesome. We'll see everybody in the fall and hope you have a wonderful summer.